Okay, so cloud security. I get it. Might not sound like the most thrilling topic for everyone at first glance, but trust me on this one. Once you peel back the layers, it's a wild ride full of high stakes and, dare I say, some serious drama. And today we're taking a deep dive into all of that, pulling back the curtain on how cloud security, or maybe more importantly, insecurity, can actually hit close to home for every one of us.
We're breaking down an episode from CloudBenders, and don't worry, we'll make sure to use our words, not tech jargon, I promise.
Yeah, it's funny, right? We all use the cloud every single day, sometimes without even knowing it.
Yeah.
But think about it. It's not just like mega corporations and tech stuff. It's your photos, your emails, those messages you send back and forth, all hanging out in the cloud. So yeah, security, it's definitely personal. Absolutely. It really is. It's like, giving a friend the key to your house. You're trusting them with something incredibly important to you. And as our friends over at CloudBenders pointed out, it's not just about those stereotypical hackers in hoodies trying to break down the door.
Right. It's much more nuanced than that. It's about building a foundation of trust in this, well, kind of crazy digital world and making sure everyone's playing their part.
Yeah, that playing their part thing is huge, right? Speaking of which, remember that Capital One breach a few years back? Over 100 million customers affected. Seriously, that many people. Talk about a wake-up call.
Yeah, those aren't just numbers. I mean, they are, but behind each one is a person whose life was probably seriously disrupted.
Totally. And what's crazy is it wasn't that AWS, the cloud provider, was just wide open for anyone to walk into. It was a misconfiguration. Basically, someone left the digital equivalent of their house key under the map. Ouch.
Yeah, huge ouch. And a perfect example of why shared responsibility is so important to understand.
And maybe not as easy to wrap your head around as you'd think, right?
Well, think of it like this.
Yeah.
You rent a car, right? The rental company gives you a car that's hopefully safe, well-maintained, good to go. But if you take it off-roading and blow a tire,
You're not going to be happy.
that's on you. Same idea with the cloud. AWS provides the secure infrastructure, they do their part. But how companies manage their data on that platform, that's their responsibility.
Right. It's a team effort, not a set it and forget it situation.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, that's where things often go wrong. Companies don't fully grasp their role in this shared responsibility dance, and bam, we get those headlines about massive data leaks.
Yep. And it's not just about knowing the rules, it's about taking those precautions seriously. You wouldn't, drive a car without checking the brakes first. Same principle applies in the cloud. Understanding your role is absolutely essential. Which brings us to a term that gets thrown around a lot, zero trust.
And before anyone tunes out thinking this is getting way too techy, stick with us.
Yeah,
Zero trust is actually way more intuitive than it sounds.
it really is. Let me try and paint a picture. Think about a new employee starting at your company. Back in the day, they'd get through the door, maybe a quick tour, and boom, they'd have access to roam around the company's system, basically.
But with zero trust, it's different. It's like they have to show their ID badge every single time they want to enter a new room.
Exactly. No more once you're in mentality. Each request, no matter who it's coming from, even if it's someone within the company, is treated as potentially bad news.
It's like they're constantly proving they belong there, even if they just showed their ID 2 minutes ago at the last store, right?
Exactly. And that showing your ID analogy, think of that as your strong passwords, your multi-factor authentication, all those extra layers of security.
Right. And those extra layers, they might seem like a pain at first. I'll admit, I used to get a little impatient with that whole two-factor authentication thing. Waiting for that text message with the code and, but I actually heard this story as this person, they almost got totally cleaned out online, but because they had two-factor set up, the hacker was totally blocked. So yeah, now I'm like, bring on the extra codes.
Yeah, it's like you wouldn't think twice about putting on your seatbelt in a car, right? It just becomes second nature because you know it's there to protect you.
It's those small things that can make a world of difference for sure.
Yeah.
So we're talking strong passwords, multi-factor, all those tools.
Mm-hmm.
It sounds like a lot. Is it really that complicated?
It's not about making it complicated. It's about making it, comprehensive. Think of it like, instead of just building a fortress around your data, you're building a smart fortress, one that's got multiple layers of defense, all working together.
Okay, I like the sound of a smart fortress. But even with the best fortresses, you still need trust, right? I mean, building trust isn't just about having the strongest locks on the door, is it?
Absolutely not. I mean, you can have all the fancy tech in the world, but if the people on the other end, the users, if they don't trust you with their data, well, it's a non-starter. It's all about transparency, right?
Yeah.
Companies got to be upfront about how they're handling your data, what they're doing to keep it safe, the whole 9 yards.
It's like you want to know that someone's treating your stuff with the same care you would, right?
Exactly. Imagine if a company was being all secretive about their security practices. Wouldn't that raise some red flags for you? It'd be like that feeling you get when you're on a website and the URL just looks kind of fishy, you know? Your gut tells you something's not right. Companies need to earn our trust, plain and simple, and that starts with being open about how they're handling security.
So how do they do that? How do they actually prove they're worthy of our trust? It can't just be like a marketing campaign with a catchy slogan.
Right. It's got to be legit. It's about putting your money where your mouth is. Companies can publish what are called security white papers. Those are basically deep dives into their security practices. They can get those compliance certifications, which is like having an independent expert come in and say, yep, they're doing things by the book.
It's like a seal of approval from the source you actually trust.
Exactly. And I think our friends at CloudBenders mentioned this, but AWS, they're pretty good about this stuff. They're not shy about offering proof that they take security seriously.
Good to know. So it's not just about checking boxes. It's about giving people the confidence that their data is actually safe.
Exactly. When a company is willing to be transparent about their security measures, well, that speaks volumes. It shows they're not messing around when it comes to keeping data secure.
Okay, so we've covered a ton of ground. Shared responsibility, zero trust, transparency, building trust. It's clear that cloud security isn't just about like ones and zeros and firewalls and all that. It's about fostering a culture of trust in a world that's becoming, well, increasingly reliant on the cloud for pretty much everything.
100%. It takes a village, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Cloud providers, companies, individuals, we've all got a role to play in making the digital world a safer place.
Totally. So let's bring it back down to earth for a sec. For our listeners out there, what are some concrete steps they can take to be more secure online? We talked about strong passwords, two-factor, all that good stuff. But what else? What are some of those everyday things that can make a big difference?
You know, that's the million-dollar question. And the good news is there are some simple yet super effective things everyone can do. And it all starts with a little awareness. Take a few minutes, think about all the apps you use, the websites you visit, you know, those log in with Facebook or sign in with Google buttons. Super convenient, right?
Yeah, guilty as charged. I use those all the time.
We all do. They save so much time, but it's easy to lose track of which apps have access to what.
Oh, for sure. It's like, wait, that random game I played 5 years ago still has access to my email.
Exactly. So take a scroll through your settings, and if you see any apps you haven't touched in ages or don't even recognize, revoke their access. Think of it like digital spring cleaning.
Out with the old, in with the secure. Love it.
Exactly. And while we're on the topic of security upgrades, have you ever wondered how technology itself is fighting back against all these evolving threats?
Yeah, are we talking like digital warriors battling it out in the cloud? What's the latest?
Well, it's not quite a sci-fi movie, but AI is becoming a major player in the cloud security game.
AI, huh? So like a digital security guard that never sleeps. Tell me more about this AI security thing.
You got it. AI is like that super observant guard, but on a massive scale. It can analyze mountains of data in real time and spot those tiny little details, those anomalies that might suggest something fishy is going on.
So it's not just about like cleaning up the mess after a breach. It's about preventing it in the first place.
Exactly. Imagine, let's say you usually log in from, I don't know, New York City, but suddenly there's an attempt to log in from, say, London from a device the AI doesn't recognize. It raises a huge red flag, potentially stopping a hacker dead in their tracks.
Okay, that's actually kind of mind-blowing, but also a little, Big Brother-ish. It makes you think about the whole data privacy side of things, right?
Yeah.
Oh, for sure. Like any powerful tool, AI has its own set of, let's say, ethical considerations. But there's this really cool area of research called confidential computing. It's kind of a game changer on the privacy front.
Confidential computing. Okay, that sounds seriously next level, like something out of a spy movie.
Right. But in a nutshell, it's about making sure data stays secure, even when it's being used. Like imagine this vault around your data, and even when it's being processed, analyzed, whatever, it's still in that vault, totally protected.
So we're talking about a future where our data can be used, for good, for research, for all sorts of things, but without ever actually being exposed.
Exactly. Which is huge, especially these days with all the concerns about data privacy. It could lead to amazing breakthroughs in healthcare, finance, you name it, but with those strong security and privacy guarantees built in.
Wow, okay. We've covered a ton of ground here today. From the nuts and bolts of shared responsibility to the futuristic world of AI and confidential computing.
It's a lot to take in. But the main takeaway is cloud security, it's not just about building those impenetrable digital walls.
Right, it's much bigger than that.
It's about establishing trust, real trust, in a world where we're relying more and more on the cloud every single day.
Absolutely. It really is a team effort, isn't it? I mean, we all have a part to play in making the digital world a safer place.
Couldn't agree more. Cloud providers, companies, individuals, we're all in this together.
So as we wrap up here, what's the one thing you really hope listeners will walk away with today?
You know, for me, it's stay curious. The world of cloud security, it's constantly changing, so keep asking questions, stay informed, and don't be afraid to dig a little deeper.
Couldn't have said it better myself. Well, on that note, we'll wrap up this deep dive into the world of cloud security. Until next time, stay safe out there, those digital clouds.